Hey guys, this is your next flipped lesson. Make sure you have a clean sheet of paper. You can label it complex sentences at the top. This is going to be due Tuesday. Make sure you take all the notes that I want you to take and answer the questions at the end. You do not need to write anything down on this slide, just listen. So a complex sentence has one independent clause and one dependent clause. So far in class, we've only focused on sentences that have independent clauses. Let me show you what I mean. So we've talked about simple sentences. This is a sentence that has a complete subject and a complete predicate, like these examples. My friend invited me to a dance. I do not want to go. Those are two independent clauses. We've also talked about compound sentences. My friend invited me to a dance, comma, but I do not want to go. We still have two independent clauses there. We just used a comma and a fanboy to combine those sentences, making it compound. Now, a complex sentence, like I said earlier, is going to have that independent clause and a dependent clause, like this example. Although my friends invited me to a dance, I do not want to go. Go ahead and pause the video and write everything on this slide down. So a complex sentence has an independent and a dependent clause. An independent clause is a complete sentence that can stand alone. So it's good to go by itself. A dependent clause is an incomplete sentence. It technically still has a subject and a predicate because all clauses have subjects and predicates, but a dependent clause is an incomplete sentence because of another word that it contains. I want you to go ahead and write down these two examples, just so that you can see that the order of a dependent and independent clause might vary depending on the sentence. So you could write this sentence, I want to be a teacher when I grow up. I want to be a teacher is the complete sentence, it's the independent clause, and when I grow up is the incomplete sentence, it's the dependent clause. You can flip-flop those clauses, like the second example. When I grow up, comma, I want to be a teacher. We're not going to talk about commas in the flipped lesson, but I do want you to pay attention to them as you're going through this lesson because we're going to be talking about those on Tuesday. So the way that you can identify a dependent clause is by a word that is located at the beginning of the clause. One of those words is called a subordinating conjunction. I want you to write down subordinating conjunction. So a dependent clause is going to begin with a subordinating conjunction, or it can begin with a different word that we're going to actually talk about on Tuesday. But let's focus on subordinating conjunctions right now. Go ahead and pause the video, and I want you to write down this list of subordinating conjunctions. These aren't all the subordinating conjunctions, but these are some common ones that you'll see and that you probably are using in your writing. I'm going to show you a few examples of sentences that use some of these subordinating conjunctions, specifically the ones that are highlighted in red. Okay, I want you to write down this first example. So pause the video if you need to. Okay, I want you to circle the word after. After is that subordinating conjunction. After is a clue that that is the beginning of my dependent clause. So I want you to put some brackets, those are like squared parentheses, around the dependent clause after he won the race. It's not a complete sentence by itself. The reason it's not a complete sentence is because of that subordinating conjunction. However, you've got he received a medal, which is a complete sentence, and it's the independent clause. Let me show you another example. I like pickles because they're sour. Okay, so obviously because is our subordinating conjunction. That's where our dependent clause begins. So our dependent clause is because they're sour. It's not a complete sentence. The independent clause is I like pickles. That is a complete sentence. Here's another example. You don't have to write this one down. Since she jogs daily, she's in good shape. My subordinating conjunction is since. So my dependent clause begins with since and ends at daily. Since she jogs daily, it's an incomplete sentence. And then she is in good shape is my independent clause because it's a complete sentence that can stand alone. One more example. I read my book while I waited in line. going to circle while. You don't have to write the sentence down. My dependent clause is going to begin with my subordinating conjunction. While I waited in line, it's my dependent clause. My independent clause is I read my book. Here's another visual with those sentences. Notice that the independent clause is the red complete sentence, and the dependent clause is the blue incomplete sentence. And you can structure them either way. The dependent clause can be at the front of the sentence, or the dependent clause can be at the end of the sentence. You don't need to write anything down on this slide. Okay, so write a number 1 down on your paper. This is going to be some guided practice. We're going to decide if the sentence below is a complex sentence or if it's just a simple or a compound sentence. So the sentence is, I loved playing with blocks when I was in kindergarten. What you should do to determine if you have a complex sentence is first look for a subordinating conjunction. Now right now you're probably not going to be feeling very confident about subordinating conjunctions, but over the next couple of weeks they're going to start to pop out at you a little more easily. So I know I have a subordinating conjunction in this sentence, and it's the word when. Okay, so I've got a subordinating conjunction. So now I check to see if I have a dependent clause. Well, chances are I do, since I have a subordinating conjunction. So my incomplete sentence or my dependent clause is when I was in kindergarten. And then I check to see if I have a complete sentence. I loved playing with blocks. That's an independent clause. It can stand alone. So I've got all 3 pieces. So yes, this is a complex sentence. So go ahead and write yes down on your paper. Now write down number 2. Let's try the same thing with this one. I love going to the beach on sunny days. So first, I'm going to look for that subordinating conjunction. Not seeing one. If you were thinking that on could be one, no, that's a preposition. On sunny days is a prep phrase. Same thing with 2. I is a pronoun. Love is a verb. Going is a verb here. So nope, there is no subordinating conjunction. If there's not a subordinating conjunction, there can't be that dependent clause. All we have is one complete independent clause. So go ahead and write no. This is not a complex sentence. Okay, go ahead, number 1 through 7. You don't need to skip lines. You do not need to write these sentences down. All we want to know is this sentence compound or is it complex? If you think it's compound, then you need to write down the fanboy that you see. If it's complex, I want you to write down the subordinating conjunction that you see, because those are going to be your clue words that help you know if you have a compound or a complex sentence. You're not an expert with these subordinating conjunctions yet, so feel free to use that list of words that you wrote down earlier. We will check this in class on Tuesday.